Well, hello everyone. This is the first in a series of conversations, which we're calling COVID Conversations, which aim to interview different people on issues of faith, science, community engagement, life and death, and a whole lots of other things against the background of the current COVID crisis. My name's Alan McKnight. I'm one of the pastors at Harper Church, and joining me today is Martin Avilla, who is the Development Director at Kinnan Park Complex. Welcome, Martin. It's good to have you with us.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Well, the Kinnan Park Complex has been really at the heart of the Kinnan Park Ibrox plantation community for many years. So, Martin, tell us a little bit about the history, where it came from, how it all got started.
Definitely. Old enough, definitely, to understand that, calling something Kinnan Park when it's actually plantation will get you into bother.
Exactly.
And so, the Kinnan Park Complex in various forms has been as part of the community since about 1916 when it was built. At that time, the area of Kinnan Park was one of the most populous areas in Europe, actually, in Glasgow, obviously. And it was growing so fast that when they built the new school at Lamb Hill Street, by the time they finished it, they needed to expand it. And so we were the annex to that. Then it stayed as a school until 1976 and then became a council-run community centre. And then in 1996, it was taken over by the local community in the face of cuts and austerity at that time, and has been going ever since as an independent community centre, run by an organisation called Scotland in Europe from 1996 till about 2009, then set up as its own community interest company, so a non-profit, but still at that point private company. And in 2019, although it seems like a lot longer ago than that, in 2019 it became a membership organisation, a Scottish charitable incorporated organisation, and what's called a Tier Skew. And so that means that an organisation which is not just run by a board of voluntary directors, but those directors are elected by the members themselves of the organisation.
Okay. Now, am I right in thinking that at some point along the way there was some kind of sit-in, some kind of direct action to make sure that the community were able to retain that facility?
Yeah. So what happened was a few community members approached a lady called Helen Kyle, who was a local community development worker, and said that the council were going to shut the centre. And Helen asked them if that's what they wanted to happen, and it wasn't. And as far as I'm aware, although it's one of those situations where story starts to become myth, so you don't really know what's true, but I've always thought, don't let the truth get in the way of a good punchline. And so what happened there was a janitor on duty, and the ladies from Kinnan Park Plantation went up and they said to the janitor, this isn't the safest areas. We don't think that you're quite safe in that building on your own, so we're going to come in and protect you. And like all good protection rackets, as soon as the janitor let them in, he found out it was a different story. So they had 55 days of a sit-in, and at the end of the sit-in, the local council, I think if I'm being honest, with a view to getting rid of them, thought the easiest thing to do would be just to give them the keys. And after a month, they'd realise the error of their way and the magnitude of the task. And so obviously the local council, the representatives hadn't really figured out on the tenacity of the women in the local area where we work.
So obviously they were passionate about the local area and passionate about the needs in the community. And it didn't disappear after a few weeks or a few months of real life for these ladies, and it went on for many years. So maybe tell us a wee bit about the kind of range of projects that were developed and the impact that it's had in the community.
They really relied on it for a lot of the after school care services that were allowing them to go out and work and to provide for their families. And so at that time, there was a lot of boxing clubs for the kids and dance classes and an after-school service and a whole range of different things. That went on for quite a while, but in 2009 when Helen decided to move on, then that was also got to do with the fact that the building was kind of considerably degrading in terms of the internal capacities of the building. The walls were fine, but the heating, the lighting, the electrics were kind of short. So a lot of the work over the last couple of years has been about getting us to the stage where we're ready to renovate that building. And so we recently bought the building and we've got the funds secured to renovate it, maybe expand it and do some other work as well. But, there's almost a kind of two-tier structure to what we do as well. We generate the income that we need to survive, so not being reliant on charity or handouts, but really saying that personal responsibility is part of, where you can take it as part of our ethos. So we rent out the spaces to those who can afford that, and we give the space to those who need it. Just having the faith that, you know, when you give what you can, you tend to get what you need. You know,
yeah.
Privilege notwithstanding, when, you know, it's easy to say that when you've got what you need, and so that keeps the building going. And then what we do in terms of social programs all comes around our cafe at the minute. We've got a pop-up cafe. Did have a pop-up cafe that runs a couple of days a week, and that's really about two things. It's about addressing inequality within the neighbourhood by providing people with the services and the access to services that they need, and it's about increasing connection and reducing social isolation within the neighbourhood. So services that are well placed in terms of outcome for the current challenges that we face.
Yeah, and before the whole COVID thing started, I mean, obviously you were in a community meal, and we came along and learned from you before launching something similar at Harper Church. So you had that on the go. What other things were happening at the complex before the closure?
I mean, there's a very wide range of things that would be happening before, you know, that they weren't maybe directly delivered by us. You know, I always say that we had everything that goes on at the complex, from Arlene Foster came to talk about the DUP stance in Brexit. And before, there was a theatre company of sex workers that put on an opera. So if you can think about that kind of broad spectrum of activity, and so, you know, there are three main groups that came into the complex, you know, and with that spectrum of activity, and I'm sure your parishioners, you know, wherever they find themselves, won't agree with everything that's in that spectrum of activity, and we don't either. But there are almost three main groups that came in. It's people that passionately believe in their communities, social change, you know, that we talk about. That's everybody from faith-inspired groups coming in to more established political parties. We would say creatives, so artists that use the studios within the building or use the spaces to put on events, and local residents who used it for everything from dance classes, yoga classes, martial arts classes, through to pre-wedding parties for the Asian community. Obviously, you know, historically the Asian community for quite a while has been well represented in the local area, and they would use it for Mendy parties and stuff like that to folks coming in, and sometimes people that, you know, faith groups that don't yet have a home for their congregation or and so anything that kind of falls within that. And what we did within the cafe was, you know, the cafe was really about feeding folks. But there are also things like craft clubs, language exchanges, and film nights and discussions, and sometimes music and dry disco and stuff like that, you know, for folks that want to come along and have a boogie, but they don't want to be in that kind of situation where alcohol and all the nonsense that goes on alongside it is there. So a massive range of activity, but not always delivered by us, and certainly not always controlled by us.
Yeah, so you're motoring on, there's loads of activity. You've got the new development taking place and the building being renovated, keeping all your projects going. And then one day, COVID-19 arrives and changes everything. So maybe you could tell us a bit about how that's changed your range of services and what sort of stuff you're doing now in this COVID context.
So for us, you know, everything's different because, I mean, we'd already moved out of the building into Clyde Community Hall, which is another hall just up the road, but we were running our cafe from there. But the sort of mid-March, one of our staff, before it all really kicked off, one of our staff members, flatmates, became symptomatic, and you know, and you know, thankfully she's all right. But that really made us go, okay, actually, you know, this situation is only going to go in one direction, and we really need to think about not having people come to the cafe, but have the cafe come to us. So very quickly we realised that services that were about reducing social isolation, services about making sure people had access to the basics and the support that they needed were going to be really important. So we set up a structure where we used the support workers that were generally in the cafe for engaging with people who came in, because a lot of what the cafe did was about reducing social isolation and helping people's mental health and well-being. But if you were to invite somebody in and say, do you want to come to my house to talk about your mental health, they'd probably give you a wide steer, you know. And if you say, do you want to come for a cup of tea, then you get to know somebody, then you can engage on that. So our support workers, rather than engaging folks within the cafe, started getting in contact with the folks that we knew came to the cafe regular, and we started a check-in service, which was just twice a week as a kind of standard to check in with folks. A catch-up service, which was about more detailed conversations and supporting people into a cafe connections program, which was very much close to the Harper friendship groups, actually, that took inspiration from that. Inspiration's been a two-way thing in this relationship. So we've got small groups who come in for video calls and try and support each other that way. And a support list of folks that were needing food delivered, cooked meals delivered, shopping done for them, prescriptions done, now expanding up into kind of like dog walking and getting folks' gardens fixed up so that they can spend a little bit of time in their garden. So just really taking anything that was to do with making sure that people were getting access to services, either services that we provide or referring people on to other services where it falls out with, the remit of our capacity, and making sure that people have got access to the basics.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, obviously, the theme there of trying to tackle social isolation remains. So you were tackling social isolation before COVID-19 arrived, and that's still what you're trying to do. Can you say me a bit about what you see as the scale of social isolation in our part of Glasgow, and what you think some of the kind of long-term impacts of that are for people?
For me, social isolation seems to be mostly the experience of others. Mostly, but I'm sure I'll be unaware of things that I'm isolated from in my life as well. But for the individual who's and that's their experience, it's the entire world. And then there's the idea of what does social isolation mean? Does it mean that you don't speak to somebody, or does it mean that you feel really removed from values in society which don't represent what you know is good for you and good for the rest of our community as well? So what I can say is just that there are a lot of folks, as traditional communities started to break down, people are generally further away from their family. Faith groups, although Harper Baptist, might be against the grain within that, but faith groups are not as strong and integral a part of people's lives. Certainly not necessarily on an area basis. So churches which are area focused, a lot of them are declining populations as well. And so I think social isolation is a much bigger challenge to a certain extent than it's ever been, and for some folks it's really difficult. And there's a lot less statutory service provision than maybe there would have been in the 70s. We have a lot less day centres and a lot less different provision for folks who are isolated due to health conditions. And so, other than saying it's a massive problem, and for some people it's the biggest challenge they face, it's difficult to quantify it.
So obviously, COVID-19 has changed everything, as we've been saying. Have you started to think about what you think the future might look like in terms of as we start to come out of lockdown, and how we support communities and individuals who really have been shaken to the core with this kind of unprecedented event?
I mean, I've got ideas in my mind what I'd like it to be like, what it's going to be like. Yeah, exactly. What I've seen is that communities that have got a strong asset base and are resilient are really well placed to respond. So when communities have got organisations within them, whatever those forms of those organisations are, that have resilient income streams, that own assets, that have wealth within them, then they're much better placed to look after the folks in them. And so the kind of byline that we've gone with is that everything is different but nothing's changed. We always are spun this kind of conversation like there's not enough. Like we've not been placed on an earth which has got a bountiful amount of everything that's needed for ourselves, and also we're spun the myth that more material possessions, more material things are what people really want, right? Despite the fact that we know personally and anecdotally, once you get past being looked after your basic needs, trying to fill that hole that people can find within themselves with material things, whatever that is a zero-sum game, and it never really gets you anywhere. And so we're kind of spun this myth, and I think that there's this idea that the values, the focus, the resources of our society, of our communities, needs to be focused on developing more material resources for everybody. And actually what we see is that that's making us sick as individuals, it's making us sick as communities, it's making us sick as a global planet as well. And so what I hope is that there'll be some intelligent conversations around that. And those who have within their wherewithal to start to refocus on things that are important, or those who are already focused on those things that are important, are going to be more supported to do so. And I think what I would really like to see happen, I've seen something happen in North Belfast recently. So following some of the social enterprise organisations and community organisations in North Belfast on in Twitter, because some of them came to visit the Cannon Park complex not so long ago, and I've seen folks, across what can be termed the sectarian divide in Belfast, volunteers from communities on either side of these imaginary walls, looking after each other. And so that's also something that I'd really like to see as well. For me, I think it's really about hoping that what happens is that communities are stronger and more resilient. What happens is that focus and resources are put into what's truly important, which isn't just material wealth. It is making sure that everybody's taken care of and they have the material goods that they need to survive, because unless we move past that, then we can't develop. And it's about, hoping that folks that come from different backgrounds can start to understand that there's much more in common. I hope that the relationships that are built here, if they can be built between the Shankill and the Ardoyne, with all the past experience of that, then there's no reason why they can't be built in other places.
Yeah, I was really interested in you picking up on this idea of there being a sense of a void or a hole within our lives that we're often seeking to fill with. It could be material things or relationships or whatever. And I was interested in that because it's exactly the same analysis that we would have, as Christians, in the sense that the only thing that can make us whole is a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ that gives a sense of salvation and meaning and purpose in life as Christ comes and makes us complete in that sense. How would you say that hole, that void that I think we've all experienced in life, how would you say that's satisfied in a true way?
There's a bit of a trinity that goes on with human beings, and that trinity is the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual. So, if we're talking about the physical, that's the needs of your body. For good or for bad, we've been placed here within this vessel, and that vessel has needs to be able to sustain it. There's the psychological needs that you've got, which then revolve around how you're able to sustain yourself as an individual and how you're able to develop yourself as an individual. And then I think the spiritual needs really come through that connection with the wider outside of the individual, right? And so I think Christians would see that as being a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, and other people would see it in a different way. But I think that if we try and separate ourselves out as this ego, which is completely independent from that which created us, or the rest of creation, not even let's go down. Obviously for Christians, they'd be very comfortable with that creator analogy. But the rest of creation, I think then that looking around yourself and understanding, recognising and acting in accordance with the fact that you are absolutely an individual, right? But you're absolutely connected to everything else within the creation. Essentially, if you know that somebody else doesn't have what they need or doesn't have as much as you, you know that there's a chance that they're going to want to take your stuff. And so that's why unequal societies tend to be unhappier societies within my point of view. And so I think, at the end of the day, first and foremost, those physical needs are about making sure that you've got what you need to survive, that you've got that healthy food that you should be eating that we don't always eat in Glasgow, that you've got a space for you to inhabit, which a lot of people in Glasgow don't have a comfortable and a decent quality space. The next thing then is about being able to, develop and grow as a person. And the next thing is also then being able to think that what you're doing is important and valued, and almost sharing out that privilege that once your existence isn't called into question, that you're able to put that out as well. So I think, these things which are kind of faith motivated, people who are part of something wider, something bigger, something that motivates them, they're generally going to be happier than somebody who's trying to live just based on that kind of very short term neurochemical hit you get off of buying a new jacket, a new pair of shoes, or drinking something or whatever.
Well, Martin, we're at Harper Church very thankful for our partnership, our community partnership with KPC. We've enjoyed getting to know you over these past few years and working together in partnership with you to serve the different needs of our area. So we're thankful for that. And I've enjoyed talking with you today. So maybe tune in for some of the future COVID conversations when we get to faith and science and such like as well. But thanks very much.
No worries, Dan. Thanks for having us. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.